Hello, I'm Chuck Wolfe, Chief Executive for Charles J. Wolfe Associates, LLC. As a motivational speaker and a leadership consultant and executive coach and trainer, I often work with very successful people and their companies. Since many can't afford a professional, I volunteer to host a radio talk show called The Emotion Roadmap, Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel, on a nonprofit community radio station in Bridgeport, Connecticut, WPKN. My reason for doing the show is to share with as many people as possible this wonderful process for helping people manage their own emotions and their relationships with others. My goal is for everyone listening to learn to use the Emotion Roadmap to make life better. As you listen to me, help others, I hope you are also learning. As a Simsbury resident, I'm delighted to be able to make the show available through Simsbury TV. To learn more, go to my website, www.emotionroadmap.com. Thank you for listening and watching.
And this is Chuck Wolfe. You're listening to the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. And this cold, chilly day, I thank you all for tuning in and listening to the Emotion Roadmap. All of you who are regular listeners, for those of you who are brand new to the show and happen to be driving by, or if one of you is someone I was talking to earlier this morning who was tuning in for the first time, the show is all about helping you take the wheel and control how you feel. Helping you to feel like you are in charge of how you are feeling. Think about that for a moment. Just if you are someone who has never really thought a lot about emotions, because emotions for many of us are kind of like breathing. We don't really think about breathing until we're having trouble breathing, and that's true about emotions too. If you're having trouble with your emotions, you're thinking about them. If you're just going from moment to moment and enjoying the day, you're not really thinking about either breathing or emotions, are you? So one of the reasons I have this show is because when smart people, those people who like to listen to this show, smart people who are good critical thinkers, who are excellent problem solvers, when you are stuck, in my experience, it's almost always because something emotional is happening to you. Something emotional inside you, or something emotional inside someone else that you're dealing with or potentially going to have to deal with. So the show is about having you call in. And if you've got a situation in your life that's showing up as a place where you're stuck and you're uncertain how to proceed, we have you call in, and the number is 203-336-9756, and I use what I call my Emotion Roadmap to help you to resolve it. And the Emotion Roadmap, again, for those of you that are new, is simply a way of looking at emotions in a very focused, very specific way. And the way I think about that is that when you're stuck and you've got a situation, and I'll give you a second just to think perhaps if you have a situation where you are feeling uncomfortable, uncertain, doubtful about how to proceed. And I'd like you to just kind of be thoughtful, mindful about that for just a moment. And consider in that moment, if there is something where you're really, really struggling with how to move forward, what are you feeling? And if what you're feeling isn't especially helpful, what would be ideal to feel? And how do you get there? And the simple example I use frequently is this idea that sometimes when you're in a situation where you want to feel confident, you want to really feel like you've got a handle on what's going on, and you know how to proceed, and you want to feel like you are really focused and able to handle whatever it is that comes. But you're feeling anxious. How do you get from anxious to confident? That's the idea of a roadmap. How do you get from one place you might be, from Bridgeport, Connecticut, where we're broadcasting, say to Boston, Massachusetts, where you might want to go and see the Celtics play basketball. Or you might want to go and see a show. Or you might want to go and just visit the Museum of Fine Arts or the Museum of Science. Or you want to get someplace that you're not. Emotionally, in this case. How do you do that? How does that happen? And so when you call in and you tell me about a situation that you're facing and you're struggling with, and I listen to you and I try to reflect back to you what I'm hearing, I will ask you, so how are you feeling? And if you're uncertain how you're feeling, I'll try and help you figure that out. And then together we'll try and talk about if what you're feeling isn't helpful, how do we get you to feel something more ideal? What would that ideal feeling be, and how do we get there? So it's first identify emotions and then use emotions. And this is fascinating, folks, because most of us throughout our lives have never thought about the idea of we can plan emotionally what we want to experience. We can plan what we want to feel, not just feel what we are feeling and have to deal with that. Some people like to say you have to play the hand you're dealt. And I think that's true in certain situations. I wouldn't argue with that. And, I wouldn't say that's always true, but it is often true. So that, for instance, if you have lost someone to cancer and, a loved one, and you are grieving, you can't change that. That you do need to grieve. Now, if you're grieving way too long, what's too long? It's hard to say. It's different for different people, but at some point it becomes obvious when it's too long, I think, to most people. I think then you need to take the wheel and change that. But you can't not grieve at all. You have to grieve. It's an appropriate response to loss. So, again, it's not that you can change every feeling, but if you're feeling anxious and you want to feel confident for a presentation you want to make, for instance, that you can change. You can control that. You can do things different that will make you feel different and will make you feel better if you have a plan for it. And that's what the show's about. If I can help you in some way deal more effectively with whatever it is you're confronting, and I explain as I'm doing it, working with you, how the roadmap works, I am hoping everybody who listens to this show, and some of you have been listening a long time. I've been doing this for 10 years now, and I'm about to start my 11th year. And next month, I started December 9th, I think, originally. And, so next month I'll be into my 11th year. It's a long time to be doing a radio show as a volunteer, and I love doing it because I love helping people. And if I can help any one of you on the phone, I'm thrilled. You're helping me by allowing me to help you, because not only am I hoping I'm helping you, but I'm hoping everybody listening is learning how to do this for themselves and for other people that they care about in their lives. Now, so that's the show in its general form. But I do a lot of different things in the show, and sometimes I have topics and themes that I'd like to talk about, and I've got a couple for today. So let me tell you about those, and then I'll give you the number to call and allow anybody who might want to call, who's been waiting to talk to me, to call. And then if I don't have anybody call right away, I'll share what the themes are for the show. But before I do that, I just want to mention that I'm on the first and second week of each month on Wednesdays at 12 noon Eastern Time in Bridgeport, Connecticut, 89.5 FM. It's listener-supported radio, so we count on you to support us, and hopefully you feel we're supporting you and we're worth it. And also, I want to just say that on December 4th, when I'm due back in here, I'm actually going to have an audio that I've already taped. I finished editing this morning, and I encourage all of you to listen December 4th. December 4th happens to be my birthday, and so I'm going to be taking off and going to have a special event with my wife, whose birthday it also is. We happen to share the same birthday, so it makes it pretty special. It's like having 2 anniversaries. Anyway, so we're not going to come in that day, but I have prepared a show. I think it's one of the best shows I've ever done, in the sense that it talks about strategies, real life strategies to help you be better at managing your own emotions and your relationships with others. And it's based on a conversation with a person that I'm friendly with named Mark Brackett, who is the director for the Center for Emotional Intelligence at Yale University. And Mark has written a book called Permission to Feel, F-E-E-L, to feel. And Mark he's a doctor, Dr. Mark Brackett. He's at Yale University. His program that he's known for is called RULER, and RULER stands for recognize emotion, understand emotion, label emotion, express emotion, and regulate emotion. That's what RULER stands for. It's an acronym that he uses in schools, not just with children, but with teachers and faculty and administrators and parents. And it's brilliant what he's been, not just him, but his team is accomplishing. And I have to say, his book well, it sounds like he's an academic guy, which he is, and he has a lot of credentials, and he works at Yale, and so you might think it's a very academic book, and so maybe you think it's just for people in schools. I have to tell you, it's one of the best books I've read about helping people be better at managing their own emotions. And it's very accessible. It's an easy read. He talks a lot about his own upbringing, and a very special person in his life is a fellow that was his Uncle Marvin. And the first few minutes of the interview with Mark are sort of about the background, and then maybe 5 or 6 minutes in, we take off on exploring all kinds of really, really, I think, helpful ideas for helping all of you to manage emotions more effectively. So you know anybody that needs to be better at this stuff, and you want to be better at managing your own emotions and helping other people, I encourage you strongly, tune in December 4th at 12 noon and listen when it first airs on WPKN. And we're streaming also, so if you know people that are out of the listening area, you can ask them to listen on WPKN.org, and hopefully you can do that too. So, again, this is Chuck Wolfe. You're listening to the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. And you are tuned to WPKN in Bridgeport, 89.5 FM, serving Fairfield, New Haven, and Litchfield counties in Connecticut, and Suffolk County in New York's Long Island. We stream around the world at WPKN.org. TuneIn Radio, Radio Free America, and you can get WPKN's free app, WPKN Live. So hopefully that's all helpful to you. And if you want to hear past shows, you can listen on podcast. You just go to either WPKN or you just go to SoundCloud, Stitcher, or iTunes, and you type in Emotion Roadmap, and my shows will pop up. So hopefully you're listening to lots of different shows, and hopefully you're listening today. Thank you for tuning in. Again, if you have something you want to call about, I'd like to give you that chance right away. And if not, I have a couple of themes that I think would be fun to talk about and important to talk about. But I most importantly want to answer your phone calls if you have one. So the number to call is 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. If you've got something you'd like some help with, a situation at work where you're wondering how to be more successful at managing upward, or dealing with some employees that work for you, or some other team members where you're a part of a team and you're struggling in some meaningful way and not certain how to proceed, and you feel you think I might be able to help you in some ways. My background, for those of you that don't know, I've done a lot of work inside large organizations, small organizations, nonprofits, for-profit, military organizations, government, schools, universities. I've really worked in so many different places, so it's sort of easy for me to draw on those other experiences to try and be helpful to anybody and everybody. And including years ago, I used to be a school counselor and also a family therapist. So lots of different background experiences and lots of wonderful opportunities to work with really smart people. I was a research associate for a while at Harvard Business School. Have worked really closely with the president of Yale University on emotional intelligence, Peter Salovey. Have had the experience of going into Wharton and MIT and being guest lecturer. Just recently spoke to a large group of coaches at HEC Montreal, the university in Montreal. So lots of different kinds of experiences, and always willing and happy to be helpful to you. Again, you might not have a problem in a workplace that you want to talk about, but maybe there's something at home, something with someone you love, or at least someone that you have to be with, and you don't necessarily like that much, but they're in your family and you got to deal with them. And so if I can help you there, I'm happy to help there as well. The number again is 203-336-9756. And I will wait a moment, and then I'll share with you a couple themes that I think you might be interested in talking about if I don't hear from any callers. So I'll just wait for a moment now. The number again is 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. And I'll encourage you to call once more before I dive into some of these other topics. Because sometimes people listen, I know, and they want to call. They're thinking about calling, but they don't call because they're a little nervous or anxious or wondering how they're going to sound on the radio or wondering whether to bring this up. And all I can say to you about that is there's a chance to get some help. I'm very skilled at what I do, and I should be able to help you. Most of the time I can. And also at the same time, you're helping lots of other people out because when you call, first of all, it breaks the ice. And secondly, it also allows other people to know how you use the emotion roadmap to help. Thanks for calling. Here's the first call. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
Hi, this is Noel.
Could you turn your radio down so I could hear you?
Yeah, I'm going to go in the other room. My volume is stuck on my radio, unfortunately.
Okay.
I'm in the other room now. Is this okay?
It sounds better, but go ahead. Yeah.
Chuck, I love your show and it's helped me a lot. Can you just tell me the name of the book and the author that you were mentioning that's going to be on the December 4th show?
Sure. His name is Mark, M-A-R-C. His last name is Brackett, B for boy, R-A-C-K-E-T-T. And the book is called Permission to Feel, F-E-E-L.
Okay, got it. Okay, thanks, Chuck. I appreciate it.
You bet.
Appreciate your show and all you give to us. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mo, for the call. You bet. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
So, again, if you have an interest in giving me a call for any reason, again, 203-336-9756. Encourage you all to get that book. I really think it's a really good book. And I encourage you to listen to the show because along with Mark's ideas, I give you sort of the highlights of what I think is really helpful for doing these things as well. Okay, here we go. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
Yes, hi, this is Kevin from Medford, Long Island.
Hi, Kevin. How you doing?
I've been better, Chuck.
Okay.
I lost my son recently, and I'm having a lot of trouble moving on,
Yeah.
He's my only child. I've been divorced a long time, and his mom left when he was young, and I raised him myself, and he got sick last January. He had diabetes, and I found him collapsed in his apartment, and the ambulance took him to the hospital, but they couldn't save him. And I just can't stop thinking about him.
How long ago did it happen, Kevin?
January 7th.
Yeah, so it's been almost a year, and it's, boy, it's one of those things that I think if you lose someone you love and it's your child, I don't know that you ever accept that. I mean, it's probably the worst thing that can happen to you. I'm really sorry to hear about it, and sorry for your loss. And it's. I mean, I wish I could say something magical to you, Kevin. There's not much to say. What I can suggest, and is just to ask. Well, first, let me ask you. I imagine you're struggling with this for 11 months now, so I'm sure you're trying a bunch of things to try and move on from it. What are some of the things that you tried so far?
Well, I was a very big hot yoga person, and I just retired last year, and I just slowly I developed sciatica over the last 2 years, and it's been very painful to walk and do things, and I'm an avid gardener, and I have a beautiful vegetable garden, organic garden. I ride my motorcycle. I walk the trails every day with my pit bull, and unfortunately, I've been isolating myself. His birthday was in September, and I got through it, and I was feeling okay. And then a friend's husband died, and I went to a wake, and I just got really bad again,
So all the feelings just hit you like a wave coming over you again after you went to the wake?
Yeah, I empathize with the woman and her family. I really don't have anybody. I've been divorced a long time. My mom and dad are gone. I don't really close with any family, and I'm seeking help. I went to a therapist for a while, and she wound up wanted to just do telephone calls, kind of like this, I guess. But I'm more of a person-to-person, but I've been feeling really bad today, and then your show came on, and I've listened to you before, and I don't know, I just have nobody to talk to about it.
No, that's fine. Kevin, have you tried doing something for other people at all? Is that at all in the cards for you as far as doing something? I mean, it sounds like you got a lot of good hobbies as an individual. It sounds like you miss, obviously having your son and not having him now, it's like you had somebody in your life that was important that you were doing things for, and you can't do for anybody right now because there's nobody else there. Have you thought about doing something for others in any way? Because sometimes that's a helpful idea.
Yes. Actually, one of my yoga instructors had moved into a new house, and she needed help painting, and I spent a couple of weeks painting her house, and I didn't really want anything for it, just to keep busy.
Yep.
And but lately I don't know, I just getting over a 2-week cold, and I got an appointment next week with a psychiatrist, and I'm feeling very depressed. I've been treated for depression before, and last year, about a year ago, I hadn't had an episode in a while, and I got off the medication. A month and a half later, I lost my son.
Yep.
And now the depression's coming back, and I just I'm trying to move on, but my son lived in Manhattan, and it was wonderful to go see him, and we'd always go out and go to the movies and get sushi, and it was exciting for me to go and be with him and hang out with him and his friends, and we all got along so well, and I just miss him so much.
Yeah, now, Kevin, I think that your son's and the loss of your son is not going away, and I think is one of the most difficult traumatic experiences any of us possibly can experience. And I have no idea how to relate to you, because unless you have that experience, I don't think you know what that feels like. Except I can just imagine it's the worst feeling you can possibly have when you lose somebody that's your offspring like that.
Yeah, we were very close, and I never ever thought I'd be without him in my life,
So, are you thinking? Do you have any plans at all about how to move on from this? Have you ever had a loss in the past that you thought was impossible to let go of, and you were able to move on? I mean, nothing like this, but I imagine you may have lost a job, or a friend. You lost your marriage. At some point, is there any experience that you might draw on here?
Yeah, being depressed for years and having, being treated, I always could see the signs after a while. I'd start like crying at a TV commercial, or, just not wanting to do the things I enjoy. And I used to be able to talk myself out of it by saying, well, what's different today than yesterday, But right now, every time I try to do that, I think of my son. And but like I said, I'm going to try to. I'm going to go back to my psychiatrist, and I know medication helped me in the past. It's just been a struggle. It's been 6 weeks since I called them, and they're very backed up. There's a lot of people with problems.
Right. You're crackling for some reason. I don't know. You're in a tough area. Where you calling me from?
Yeah, I don't get the best signal in my house here.
Well, let me just try and say something to you, just because if it keeps crackling, I can't talk with you. But let me offer you a couple ideas. So the key thing is you're feeling a deep loss, and boy, I can't. Let me see if I can lower this. I don't think I can keep you on with the signal you have. Do you mind hanging up and just listening in?
Yeah, certainly. I could do that.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. And hopefully this will be helpful to you. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Yeah, cell phone signals sometimes are tough. Let me see if I can okay. Or maybe that's our phone. Is that my signal? Huh. Shut this off. Hold on. Is that clearer? Yeah, that's a little better. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to say, Kevin, is when you experience a loss, it's of something like what, of a child, I don't think there's any coming back from that in the sense that you'll ever be whole again. However, if you think about the things that you were doing with your child that you were just talking about, hanging out with him, helping him out, especially if he had diabetes, you're probably there for him when he needed you. So what was being filled up in your life with that relationship with your son was you were doing something that was important. You had a relationship that mattered, and you had somebody that counted on you, and that's all missing. And while I know this is kind of a standard, but I really believe that sometimes it feels so much better rather than sitting at home and trying to just push this out of your mind, is if you have a place to go. And I don't know what makes the most sense to you because it's different for different people, but a place to go where you talked about helping somebody that was a former yoga instructor of yours, where you actually met with them at their house to help them paint something. And that felt good to you, it sounded like. So what if you could do more things? Well, I wonder if this is, anyway, if you met with them and that if there was something that you could do for others. Now, you used to be a yoga instructor, and I don't know if your sciatica keep you from doing that, but what about filling in for some folks? Because that was something you enjoyed doing and you were good at. Maybe that's something that you could do more of. And then what about doing something that was just a volunteer? I don't know what that would be. If you like being out in the trails, maybe doing something with land trust. Helping out and volunteering in the woods in some way where you're helping communities to save land, where you're working with other people that love the land too. Maybe it's a hospital setting. Your son had diabetes, and maybe volunteering in a clinic that helps people with diabetes. So it's sort of meaningful to you in a couple of ways. One, you're doing something for others. You're interacting with people. People will need you, and you're doing something for the disease that cost your son his life. So if we could have stayed on the phone, maybe we could have figured something out that resonated with you. But I'm hoping I'm touching some bases that resonate with you, Kevin, that feel like that's something that you could do and you'd be willing to do. Because the roadmap works like this. You're feeling depressed. You have an obvious reason. You're thinking it's going on too long. And you actually were pretty good, I think, up to September. Then his birthday happened. Then the wake of a close friend happened. And all that stuff had just hit you again. And I'm going to tell you that you can expect that other things that remind you of your son for the first year or two will keep coming back and causing a similar kind of wave to hit you. Now, that shouldn't be reason for depression. That just should be, hey, that's normal. And when you have it happen and you expect it to happen, you just realize, okay, I get it. This is a new experience where I think about my son again. It's causing me to relive that whole event, but not with the same intensity each time. And if you know it's coming and you're prepared for it, that's one of the other ways I think the emotion roadmap can be helpful. Knowing that some feelings are going to come and overwhelm you and cause you to feel depressed and sad and lonely, and that you have a plan for when that happens, what to do. Now, if you have places where you're going and you're doing things for others, when that hits you, you push yourself to get out the door and do more of them, so that you're ready to counter whatever it is that's going to happen. These feelings of loss and sadness are appropriate. They're how we respond when someone we care for and love has left us. Now, it doesn't have to be died, but has left us. And, at that point, when that happens, we're going to be reminded from time to time of that special relationship we had at the time that no longer is possible. The memories of that person, you should try to focus on what the good memories are. But anytime you're feeling really, really sad again, and reliving all the anguish that happened at the first parts of this, remember the intensity isn't likely to be the same. And if you've got a plan to go out and force yourself into a community where you're doing something for someone in some way, I think you'll feel better. So I hope that's helpful. And that's how the roadmap works, everybody. So let me talk to you about something else today I'd like to help with, because I wanted to recognize veterans. Veterans Day just passed, and anytime any of us have had relatives, I think, that have served in our armed forces and helped to protect all of us, we think about them. And I wanted to say something about my dad, because in recent years I've thought about him in a different way than I remember him. He's been gone a long time. It's a lot of years. I think it's like 35 years now since he's passed away. But my dad was a World War II veteran. He originally went in and enlisted in the Army Air Force at the time. It was together. The two military groups, Army and Air Force, separate now, were together then. And he wanted to be a pilot. But when he got assessed for capabilities, he was one of the best shots. I guess he was a really sharp shooter. So they decided, instead of a pilot, we want to make you a gunner. And they decided to put him on the outside of one of these like B-17 planes where they had the little glass bubble. And you sat in a contained bubble on the side of a plane with a machine gun. And your job was to shoot enemy airplanes out of the air that were trying to shoot your plane down so that your plane could bomb different sites over in the European theater. That's where he was stationed. And I can't even imagine what it must have felt like to be in a plane, never mind with people shooting at you and you shooting at somebody else, but on the outside of a plane in a glass bubble. I can't even fathom that, number one. Number two is that when my dad was alive and I was a young kid, I remember he used to watch Western movies, and I like watch. I learned to love Westerns, still do to this day. And how the Westerns, all the ones made in the 40s and 50s and 60s and so forth, they were pretty clear on how they were going to end. It was a good guy, bad guy on the main street, and at the end of the show, the TV show or the movie, they'd have a shootout and the good guy'd be the winner. That's how it ended a lot. And I used to love that idea of trying to be the good guy, and maybe that's why I do this radio show, trying to be a good guy, trying to be helpful, trying to help people with their lives. But, in recent years, I realized that my dad was sort of like shooting at the bad guys, if you will, at 20, 30,000 feet in the air. At people that he didn't know, but were shooting at him and trying to knock his plane down and kill and kill all the people on the plane, including himself. I don't know how anybody can even do these jobs, but I'm just so thankful that he was able to do it. And at the time in World War II, they used to say anybody that flies 20 missions was sending home at the end of the 20 missions, because we know nobody psychologically can handle more than 20 missions. And 20 missions came and went. My dad was still flying these things because so many planes had got shot down over the European theater. He actually ended up flying 52 missions. He was clearly credited for shooting 8 other planes out of the air, German planes. And at one point, over the Płesty oil fields, I guess in Poland, a whole bunch of his squadron didn't come back, including the person on the other side of the plane who was shot and killed in the other little glass bubble that was opposite where he was. And he, too, actually got shot at, and his glass shattered, but he turned down a Purple Heart because he didn't want to take the Purple Heart because he still had missions to fly. And since he wasn't really injured, he just got some scrapes and cuts. And the other person that had been killed, he just decided he was, superstitious. He felt if he got a Purple Heart, he'd really have to earn it. And he didn't think he earned it, even though he was shot at. And this had happened to him. So anyway, I just wanted to share how proud I am of my dad and what he was able to do, and how important it was to be the good guy out there trying to trying to keep the fascist from taking over the world. And it was a pretty clear enemy. The enemies today aren't so clear, and it isn't so easy to know who's the good guy and when we're the good guys or we're not the good guys. And a lot more confusion than there was back then, it seems. But in any case, I wanted to just say, I want to thank everybody who's a veteran, who has went into service, wanting to do the right thing for the right reasons, and trying to make the world a safer, better place. In some ways, I like to think I'm sort of on the front lines and trying to help, but in a different way. I'm not shooting at anybody, but I feel like one of the things that I hope this show does is it helps everybody who's listening, to find a way to generate more inner peace. Listening to Kevin or Mo called earlier looking for that book. I mean, there's a lot of people that find it challenging to deal with their emotions, emotional circumstances, strong emotions that sometimes feel like they take you over. One of my colleagues and friends, Dan Goleman, talks about the amygdala hijack. It's part of your brain that seems like, if you've ever had this experience where you feel like you're screaming at somebody or you're just out of control and you don't even recognize yourself. And you can't even believe you're doing it. And yet, even while you have this sort of semi-consciousness of you're doing something really strange, you're still doing it. And it's still you, and even though it doesn't even resemble you normally. So a lot of us struggle with what's going on inside ourselves. And we think when we want to get better at emotional stuff, we think about how do we influence the other guy or the other woman? How do we make them behave better so we're more peaceful? But mostly, I think what we really want to focus on is how do we get control over our own selves? Right? How do we get control over our own selves? Because I think the more inner peace, and I hope this program helps with that. I hope I'm helping each of you that listen pretty regularly to feel some sense of inner calmness. And when you're struggling emotionally, that you remind yourself that you don't have to necessarily feel that way. And you can ask yourself, if what I'm feeling isn't helpful, what do I want to feel? And what was it Chuck said about how do you get from one feeling to another? And can I do that? Is there some way I can get from whatever I'm feeling that isn't helpful at all to something that would be great to feel right now? Or is there some plan I can put together that I'm willing to do and able to do? And can I find some kind of inner peace? Because I think if we find more inner peace, then we got a better chance of world peace. I think sometimes the way we act, it seems like we're acting out our internal struggles and we're putting them onto other people. So in talking about veterans and what they bring, all of you that do that service, what you bring, I just want to say thank you for me and everybody else that appreciates what you do. I want to encourage people to think about, I know it's hard to think about sending your child, your loved ones off to war, if that's what it's going to be. But I also think what an incredible gift it is to the world when somebody volunteers to help protect all of us. And that's in law enforcement too, by the way. It isn't just with people who are in the armed services and the military. So thank you to everybody that does anything and everything that they can to try and keep the world safe and to help people to find peace and to make the planet more peaceful. So I also wanted to encourage you, if you have a nice story you'd like to share about a veteran, if you are a veteran and you'd like to just talk a little bit about what it means to you to be in service, I'd like to allow a few minutes at least on my show to talk about that. So if you got something you want to share with me, I'd encourage you to give me a call now and let's just put it on the air. 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. See if there's somebody out there that wants to give me a call about either a veteran they know or just something that they want to say about veterans or a veteran or somebody who's serving right now. What does it mean to serve? 203-336-9756. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please? Hello? Looks like we're connected, but could you try talking again?
My name is Joni.
Hi,
I'm
Joni.
calling from East Patchogue, New York,
Hi, Joni.
which is about 4 miles south of Medford, where Kevin called from.
Okay.
I have excellent signal.
Okay.
I have a friend who is a veteran of Vietnam, and he's my age. I'm not afraid to say I'm in my mid to late 60s. I'm proud of it. Very proud of the baby boomer generation, plural. And he is on a motor scooter because he's had a back injury. He's very caring. He feeds animals, birds. He's very attentive to nature, and he has a few gentlemen that he knows live in the woods that surround our senior citizen apartment. He goes out at night and finds them and feeds them and makes sure they're warm.
Wow.
They are shunned by some people because they are homeless, and they don't understand that the homeless problem is very active in the people who served our country. They suffer from dementia or a mental illness that hasn't been taken care of. The VA has done a good job, but is overwhelmed with the amount of people they have to serve and take care of. But this big man, who they call Santa Claus, his nickname, is that he has a big, big body, a big white beard, and a big, big heart.
What a nice
And
story,
when
Joni.
that wind was blowing last night, I thought of him. I saw him go by my courtyard with his little red light, and he gave a beep, which indicates to his neighbors that the men he takes care of, he's found. And could we sleep any better? Maybe a tiny bit. But knowing there's someone out there and other people like him, most likely, is apropos for this time of the year.
So there is a Santa Claus, I guess. That's a lovely story, Joni. Thank you for sharing it.
And there's one thing I'd like to say to Kevin, and you mentioned it also. It's very difficult to take your first step out of yourself to help yourself. From experience, and most people have this experience, when you feel there's nowhere to turn inside yourself, going outward and helping someone else makes a world of difference. And once you've taken that first step, even if it's just saying hello to somebody and doing something kind, like opening up the door and smiling, the smile is infectious, and they smile back. And I do volunteer work all the time. I lost my brother. He was 32. I saw what my parents went through. I lost the man I was going to marry when I was 42, very abruptly. And I went into a depression like I had never known before. But I knew the only way out was to reach out. I joined a local church. I was with kind, giving people. I sought counseling, and I kept myself busy. I had extreme rheumatoid arthritis, so I was dealing with pain. But once you get yourself moving mentally, emotionally, and physically, you can make a big difference, and the big difference has to begin in you. And I hope Kevin is still listening. It would help him to listen to this beautiful radio station because it's consoling in so many different ways. And Chuck, you're a very, very empathetic and kind person. I'm glad you're on the show.
Thank you very much, Joni. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for your kind words to Kevin. And I think you represent why we call it a community strip. I mean, I love the idea that community members, when they hear somebody else who's suffering a bit, have some thoughts that they want to share that also are empathetic and also hopefully very helpful. And Kevin, I hope you are listening. And Joni, if you see that fellow, that's Santa Claus, thank him for all of us. It's a wonderful thing he's doing. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Wow. Okay. Thanks. That was great. I also saw somebody else who was trying to call, and I'm here by myself as far as answering the phone. So, if you had a call that you want to share, this is a good time. 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. Where else but WPKN could you confirm that there is a Santa Claus out there? Okay, we got someone else. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
This is Cindy.
Hi, Cindy.
And I never heard your show before, but I really am enjoying it.
Thank you.
But and I didn't expect to hear you talking about the veterans, because usually after the holiday that's kind of the end of everything. But I am reading this book, and the name of it is Chicken Soup for the Veteran Soul. And it's by Jack Canfield and, the people that write those chicken soup books.
Right.
And it's stories about people that were in the military and just what they went through. And it's really hit home. It gave me a whole new perspective and understanding of what it's like to be in the military for all these different wars and how it affects people, and very touching. I think everybody should read it.
It's interesting. I read some of Jack Canfield's. He's been writing these books for a long time. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know that he had one about the military, so it's really good to know that, and it's interesting that you picked it up and found it to read it, and that you're sharing it. And yes, I know the holiday has passed, and I just thought, I was thinking about it because the holiday just occurred just a couple of days ago, and I had that story about my dad that I wanted to share. So I thought, well, this would be a nice time, maybe just have people just. It's kind of nice to be thankful to other people, and there's so much to be thankful for in terms of the kind of life and not everybody's living the life that they dreamed about, but there's so much opportunity still in this country, and part of that is because people fight to keep us safe and volunteer to keep us safe, and I'm just really thankful for that.
And they do deserve to be honored and appreciated, and I think we take a lot for granted, and it's nice to remember them.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your show. Are you on Monday through Friday? Or?
No. It's a volunteer. So I'm on two Wednesdays a month, on the first and second Wednesdays at 12 noon on PKN.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I hope to listen to you again.
Thanks. If you're interested in past shows, you can listen on either SoundCloud or Stitcher iTunes, because we do podcasts, and so a whole bunch of my shows are up there if you like.
Mm-hmm. What's your last name?
Chuck Wolfe, Wolfe.
Okay.
Like the animal with an E.
Thank you very much, Chuck, and you have a nice day, and I hope that I'm sure that your listeners are benefiting from what you're saying.
Thanks so much for the call, Cindy, and thanks for tuning in, and hope you'll get to listen again.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye now. So again, you're listening to WPKN 89.5 FM in Bridgeport. We serve Fairfield, New Haven, and Litchfield counties in Connecticut and Suffolk County in New York. We stream around the world at WPKN.org. So if you like our show and you think other people should listen to it, you can tell them they can tune in on the internet at WPKN.org. TuneIn Radio and Radio Free America. And again, if by chance you're just listening to the station for the first time and you're driving by and you happen to be driving through Connecticut or Long Island and you hear the show, if you want to remember the call letters, I've got an easy way to remember it. It's kind of a fun way. It's I think of it this way. Every time I'm leaving my house, there's certain things that I want to remember to bring with me, and you probably feel the same way. So those things are wallet, W, my phone, P, my keys, K, and N is, do I need anything else? WPKN. Okay, thanks, everybody. You got time for one more phone call if anybody else wants to call in about this? 203-336-9756. I've actually got about 6 minutes, so happy to take one more phone call if you want to call in. 203-336-9756. I'll give you a moment. Well, I've had a bunch of phone calls today, and that's been very nice. And I'm really appreciative. I like the idea of talking about veterans. I'm glad that worked today, and people had nice stories to share. I also want to just mention that we've got something else coming up, and I won't be back to talk with you about this before this happens, and that's Thanksgiving dinner. And so let me say a few words about that before we close the show off today. Thanksgiving dinner, for most people, is a pleasant experience. Not everybody, because not everybody's in a position where their family gets together. But hopefully for you and for those you know, you're going to be getting together with family members. And while that has the potential to be a joyous occasion, it isn't always. Sometimes there's this person who just comes, or more than one person that comes, that wants to talk about impeachment hearings, for instance, or just says something really negative that just causes you to churn inside, and you're really struggling with what to say back, and you don't want to make it worse, but you don't want to let it pass, and you're really wondering what to do about it. So I want to just a couple of things I'd like to say about this. First of all, I get ideas from lots of places, and one of those places is some books that I might read by people I respect or know about or hear about. Like, I might try to look up the Jack Campbell book I just heard about. I've got some of his other books at home, but I've never thought about Jack Campbell and the military. That's new. Also, I just want to let you know that there's another idea that I got that came from, well, I'll tell you where it came from in a minute, but first let me just tell you what it is. Because when you're experiencing something at the dinner table at Thanksgiving and you feel like you want to confront it because you don't want to let it pass, and yet maybe letting it pass might be the best thing. But here's just a strategy for you and for all of us to think about. And actually, this one has worked really well for me. And it's kind of interesting where I got it from. It wasn't from a famous author like Jack Campbell or Mark Brackett, the director of emotional intelligence at Yale, or Richard Boyatzis at Case Western University, who just wrote the book Helping People Change, a great book. It wasn't from any of them. But here's what it is. The first thing you want to think about when you're thinking about confronting something maybe, or dealing with something that's causing you some kind of internal upset, is to think about this first thought, which is, does this really need to be said? Whatever it is that's going through your mind. That's the first part. The second part is, does it really need to be said by me? Okay, so maybe it needs to be said, but not by you. And the last part is, does this really need to be said by me now? Okay? So first, just think, does this really need to be said? Second, does this need to be said by me? And does it need to be said by me now? And that's been very helpful to me, because a lot of times when I ask myself those questions, the answers are, no, it doesn't need to be said, or it doesn't need to be said by me, and it certainly doesn't need to be said by me now. Okay? So having said that, one of the things that I would suggest to you is that you think about that, particularly at Thanksgiving dinner, but all times during your life where you feel like, when you're about to say something and you feel like it's not going to be accepted very well by the person you're saying it to, or by people that might be at the table with you at the dinner table. So you might want to rethink it. And the person that I heard this from was a fellow named Craig Ferguson. And Craig Ferguson is a Scottish comedian who's been on late night television, if you ever caught him there or seen him on television at some point or another. He's a late night comic, and he's funny. And he said it took him 3 marriages before he learned this lesson. So remember that the idea around dinner time, if somebody says something that just triggers you and you're about to respond, ask yourself, does this really need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? Does it need to be said by me now? And I'll leave you with that. Thanks, everybody, for listening. You're listening to Chuck Wolfe, WPKN 89.5 FM in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. And December 4th, remember to tune in for the conversation about permission to feel, a conversation with Mark Brackett about feelings. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.